Good evening, everyone. Being 7:01, I'd like to call the December 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Capital Planning Committee to order. Tonight on our agenda, first up, we have some reports and hearings on capital projects. First on the agenda is the town clerk. Tricia Zoris is with us this evening, and that will be followed by school facilities. And from the school department, we're pleased to have Dr. Jay Lang, superintendent, and Joanna Johnson Collins, a school finance director and business manager. So we'll begin with the town clerk's project, which is project number 3. Welcome, Tricia.
Thank you very much, John, and committee members. Appreciate you having me here. So basically, this is what we're looking for is we're nearing the completion of our 5-year historic records and archival project. So for those, just as a quick recap, back in 2013, before I joined the clerk's office, there was a preservation needs assessment report done. Estimates were derived back in 2014. In 2016, we began digitizing some of our oldest historic records through a free program through the Boston Public Library. 2017, we had a consultant review of our records management system, our space and preservation needs. In 2018, we completed our vault storages, both the treasurer's vault, the town clerk's vault upstairs and the town clerk's vault downstairs. And then 2019, we did the planning and zoning room and what we call SBO3, which is the departmental storage room. And what we did with those rooms is we improved and the vaults is we've improved the climate control, the archival shelving, the archival storage of all of those records. So at this point, what's left is a room called SBO5. And currently it's almost a transitional room, but we use it as a storage area for those records that are about to be able to be destroyed after we've gotten permission from the secretary from the archival records division of the state. So right now it's a staging area. It still has some of the old scaffolding shelving. It's a very dirty space. It's got a carpet that's probably been down since it was a school. It also is a transition area for the library. They go through there to access the stage, and it's kind of been used as a pseudo storage area. So SBO5 would be a place that I'd like to clean up that environment again for records that are being stored in there and for easier access to be able to make sure that that shelving is appropriately sized so that people aren't having to climb up on top of scaffolding in order to get things from the shelving. And also as part of this year's request, I was hoping to be able to we still have some of the older metal shelves in the lower level of the clerk's vault. So I did out of our operating budget some sliding shelving. I spent that out of my operating budget, but on the sides of the vault there's still old metal shelves that are kind of bent and falling down a little bit. So I'd like to be able to fix those shelves. But digitizing the planning and zoning files that are in LL03 is the biggest bulk of the request that I have for you this year. And that is involved now that all of those planning and zoning files have been purged, re-indexed, rehoused, and reshelved. It would be very beneficial for the building inspector's office and also for our office, also for the public, if we could digitize those files so that they could be accessed from remotely. So that's the bulk of this request is the $35,000 estimate for digitizing the existing planning and zoning records that we have to hold in perpetuity. The other 2 years I'm hoping to do dry fire suppression later on down the road. That's something that I've been trying to get done as well, but I didn't put it down for this year as I understand that there's other projects that are probably more pressing. So that concludes my presentation. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Tricia? Okay. I don't see any. Thank you, Tricia.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
And Darlene, I made you a co-host, so if you're able to share the document, I thought it might help. Just to explain to the members, when I send out all of the project detail sheets for all of the school facilities projects, they're numbered in a certain order because they correspond by school location, but that's not necessarily in the priority order from the school committee and school administration. So just wanted to clarify. So we have what I did is I put them in order just so that try to make them a little easier during Dr. Lang's presentation. So we'll move on to school facilities. Good evening, Dr. Lang. Joanna, welcome.
Hey, John, how are you?
Ryan,
Thank
how are
you, John, and members of the committee for speaking with us tonight or hearing from us tonight. I'm just going to review for you the school committee projects that are before you this year for consideration. As John indicated, the school committee did go through all of our projects, kind of vote to, thank you for putting that up, vote to present them in kind of priority order. You have a memo from me that kind of lays out the order, and then as John indicates, these projects go in that order. And some of the rationale around the priority order is we do take a look at projects that have been deferred for multiple years and typically try to bring them back to the front to bring some finality to them. The different projects that we've identified for consideration were all part of that Doran Whittier facility assessment that we undertook in 15-16. They helped us strategize and put together a 10-year capital plan with some incremental projects each year to consider. So that's what you have before you tonight. There are projects that total approximately $2.7 million. The 8 projects will just kind of run through in order. If you have any individual questions as we go, certainly I'm fine if you want to jump in and ask, or if you want to wait till the end too, that's totally fine. The first one before you this evening is some, and there are a couple of themes here. This is kind of an HVAC repair replacement, a little renovation to ductwork and the air handling systems in several of the schools throughout the school system. Also, HVAC related, some hot water convector units that need to be replaced at Westlands School, and then some variable frequency drives on the rooftop unit at high school, one that's been plaguing us a little bit. So these projects cumulatively total $156,000. They have been before you previously, so they were deferred in the prior 2 years, 21 and 22. So we have ranked this as our top priority, actually for 23. For 23 to be able to hopefully do that this year as well. So that is HVAC ductwork related projects at various schools in the school system. The second project before you this evening did come up last year when we were going through our prioritization. We had decided that there were other projects we wanted to move first, and this one was something that we did defer in 22. But we know that the systems themselves are not improving with age. So it is something that we're going to have to do sooner than later. And this is a replacement of the boilers at Chelmsford High School. So the nice part about this particular project is the piping and the ductwork for the most part will remain. This is basically a switching out. The third project gets into, Darlene, if you don't mind advancing that one. The third project gets into some stair tread replacements, and this is the first year that this is coming before this group. But we do have projects that are required, and we've broken them down over the next 2 fiscal years. So we did highlight for you, we are before you this year for Byam, Harrington, and Parker. But that we would be coming back a year from now for McCarthy. And this again relates to several of our schools that still have old cement stair treads that again are slippery not fully up to code in a new school environment, and we would like to have them replaced with code compliant rubber stair treads. At Harrington as well, in addition to the interior of the building, the outside of the building has 3 little concrete steps that you kind of step down into to get to the entryway, and they are cracking and deteriorating. Every year the town does a nice job of trying to kind of patch them up to get us going, but it is at the point where they need to be kind of rebuilt. So again, this is a project you're going to see for 2 years. The first year we tackle in 23, Byam, Harrington, and Parker. Again, this is interior all. The fourth project before you this evening is if you recall, we actually have 3 major kitchen repairs. Last year, we completed the Parker Middle School over this past summer. It really came out nice. We have 3 kitchens in the district that we utilize for actual meal prep and cooking on site. It's at our 2 middle schools and our high school. So when we did our capital plan, these kitchens and facilities are all outdated and do need to be replaced. As I indicated, Parker really came out great, and I'd be happy to share some pictures of that with you at one of our meetings. This current year for 23, we have McCarthy Middle School slated to be completely renovated and overhauled. And then we're also kind of flagging for you that the following year for 24, we would have the high school on the list. And that is a big number. So we wanted to kind of carry that to give you a preview of what was coming. But this is a soup to nuts remodel renovation upgrade of McCarthy kitchen. It would include obviously pulling everything out, checking and verifying the drop ceilings that they're correct. The floor actually is in a decent shape over at McCarthy. They use a quarry tile. We had to do a different poured floor at the Parker kitchen. So the majority of the floor would likely remain at McCarthy, but it would include all new service lines, all new ovens and grills and things along those lines. And that totals about $438,000. So that is the McCarthy kitchen, which is slated for fiscal 23. Excuse me, the 5th project, and this is actually, I believe, our last school. We hadn't done bathrooms in schools for a couple of years, but this is over at the Westlands school, which houses our community education as well as our CHIPS integrated preschool program. This project is primarily for our CHIPS integrated preschool program. It is to replace the student bathrooms and staff bathrooms within the building with new code compliant, handicap accessible fixtures and petitions throughout that school, again, primarily for the student population that is served there. This would include new floors, obviously new fixtures that, again, code compliant and the proper height and whatnot for that particular school. Each of our, 3 elementary schools, because Center had already been renovated, as well as there was work at the high school to upgrade bathrooms over the last 10 years or so, worked very well. And this is the time that the Westlands school is up in 23. So this would be the last bathroom project you would see from us for a while, but Westlands is on the docket for fiscal 23. And that is a school-wide project. It's not one particular bathroom. It is the whole school. Smaller project, but still significant. We have 2 older gymnasiums in the district. South Row is before you for 23, and then Center would be before you for 24. Wall.
Dr. Ling, excuse me, your audio and video froze. So after you said fiscal year 24, some of the members may not have been able to hear. Sorry to interrupt, but.
No, am I back now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. I'm having some connectivity issues at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Am I back again or am I gone?
Yes, you're live.
Oh, live. Okay.
Yeah.
So at South Row in particular, this is the school for 23. I was just mentioning, if you look at the backboard, there's really not a significant space between the baseline of the court and the wooden wall. So this is really a safety issue where students, if they're, say, doing a layup, usually on those back walls, they would be padded. just to avoid a child running into them and hurting themselves. Also on the perimeter of the side of the courts is where we have the univents or the metal venting systems. And we would have padding be applied to those, again, just in the event that a child ran off the court to the side. They're not running into a metal heating unit. They'd be running into some padding just to provide a little bit of safety and comfort. So this year in 23 would be taking care of and addressing the South Row Elementary School. In 24, again, we're just kind of flagging for you that we'd be coming back for a smaller project at Center Elementary School. Our gyms are not only used during the school day, obviously for phys ed classes, but they get a lot of use in the evenings and our weekends from youth basketball leagues and different sporting teams that might come in and utilize our facilities. So this is a project we would like to accomplish just to provide a different level and a little bit more safety in that particular school. Second to last project for us this year, again, is a big project number-wise. This was a project that was deferred in 22, back before us again in 23. This is a major project at Chelmsford High School. You know that we have a kind of a tennis and basketball complex there. This is a number to basically be able to renovate and redo that entire playing area. So this would be new tennis courts, new basketball courts. There'd be a street hockey facility as well. And it does have a big price tag. I think it is something we would all like to do. We struggle a little bit just because of the quantity of it. And that's why it kind of drops down our priority list, a little bit. I think this is a project, obviously, that we've talked with the town about because the town does benefit from the courts, both tennis and basketball as well. It is something I think we'd all like to do. It is just kind of a big number. And when we look at the total dollar amount and the amount that we normally would spend on projects, it certainly needs to be done, but that's why it kind of drops to the bottom a little bit or drops lower on the priority list just because it is such a big number on that particular project. But this would be a complete redo of the tennis, basketball, and street hockey courts at the high school. And the last project for us is, again, just a smaller project. This was actually something that was flagged in the Dora Whittier study. Again, not a significant dollar amount, but it would be a one and done type project. The exterior of Chelmsford High School has old lighting on it. This would be to just replace the existing lights with new LED lights. Again, they'd be a little bit brighter. They'd sustain and last a little bit longer. Not a significant dollar amount, but that is just to replace the sconces basically on the exterior of the high school. So those are the school committee projects for this year. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, these are provided in kind of priority order that the administration has worked through the individual schools with and the school committee with. And this is what we'd like to bring forward this year for discussion. So we thank you very much for that.
Dr. Lang, I do have one question on the Westlands bathroom project.
Sure.
In some of the past projects, there's been an opportunity to cost share between this program and the community ed funding. Is
Correct.
there also that opportunity for this project?
This is something that we're also looking at. I don't see a significant ability to really cost share this one with community education, where the primary, the students in the school who utilize the bathrooms who would really benefit and require the code compliant handicapped accessibility are the students in the integrated preschool program. Paid for or contributing to some of these projects, contributing to this particular one. Community education, we do try to utilize those funds as much as we can to offset costs at the school. We did over the course of this past year have community education 100% pay for the new playground that went in at Westlands School that obviously everyone, even in CHIPS in the neighborhood, benefits from. And we actually utilize funding from the community education budget to pay for the installation of the video surveillance system in the whole school. And we didn't, tag CHIPS or capital for any of that. So we have, I would say that's over $500,000 that we have applied directly to the community ed capital budget over the last year and a half for two major projects that we haven't either come before this group for or tried to allocate to CHIPS at all. And just again, given the nature of the school and the clientele that's being served and the requirement, I do think this is actually one that should come pretty much fully from the town, because it is the CHIPS population, which we're required to provide, as opposed to the voluntary community ed program.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Lang, can you hear me?
I think his screen is frozen again.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's
oh,
frozen.
Dr. Ling, David Goslin has a question for you. I think your audio or video froze temporarily there.
Yeah, hanging back now. Sorry about that, David. How can I help you?
That's all right. Have you had any injuries in the two gymnasiums that you're looking to put padding on the wall?
I can't speak to any significant injury. I mean, we certainly do have students that, will run into the wall either during gym class or say like a basketball rental at night. If you're coming in and you're trying to do a layup, you can easily get pushed into those walls. Most of the gyms, that I'll even go to with like my own kids, if they're playing in a competition or whatnot, do have padding on the back walls. I'm a little surprised that we didn't have them in the building. And honestly, it's not something that really jumped out to me until I saw it be surfaced in the report. And if you do look at the back line, even in that picture where the basketball hoop is, the end line of the court is within probably a foot of the wooden wall. So it is something I think that we can easily justify the padding being necessary for.
Yeah, again, I come out of industry, and when you have safety issues, they kind of go to the head of the list. And so would it be reasonable to move this project up and make sure that we do it this year?
Dave, I'm sorry. I actually froze up there again for a second. Would you mind repeating?
No, not at all. I was saying I come out of industry where safety issues really, become priority number one. I'm curious as to why we couldn't just move these up and get them done this year. Seems to me not so much money, and I would think that we don't want people getting hurt or the town being exposed.
No, I very much appreciate that. I think, again, as we went through the priority order, we kind of wrestle a little bit with the projects that have been deferred for multiple years because, obviously, like even on a couple of the heating situations, like the HVAC work for the cleanliness of air quality and whatnot, that's something that's come up as being pressing in this last year in particular. Having to heat at the high school, God forbid the boilers ever, went down and we couldn't get them going again. It's a little bit of a balancing act, but obviously when we go through the overall town ranking on projects, this would be something that is not a significant dollar amount compared to some of the other ones.
Okay, thank you. I think you froze again.
Yeah, I think he's frozen. Dr. Ling, I'm not sure if you want to try turning off your video. You froze again, but does anyone have any additional questions for the superintendent? Okay, looks like I don't see any.
Sorry about that, John. I just relocated to a different spot in the house. So
no, that's okay. No, that's okay. I don't see any. Darlene, if you could just minimize or take down that document, that just helps me see all of the tiles with all of the different thank you with all the attendees. I don't see any other questions, but if anyone has a question for Dr. Ling, he just relocated to a different spot. And I think everyone's good. If you do everything, just raise your hand. I think we're good. Thank you. Thank you for the information. So that concludes our presentation on school facilities. And I did want to ask our town accountant, Darlene Lucia, just as we begin to look towards the third meeting next week, Darlene reviewed all of the recaptured funds. I should say, she takes a look at prior year projects that are completed. So Darlene, if you could just give the committee just a quick summary of what you looked, you looked for any recaptured funds this year.
Yep. I looked at the last couple of years because those are really the only capital projects that we have open. And for any projects that we had last year from 20 to 22. So the ones that are this year are basically just ramping up and getting started. But from last year, in the prior year, there's really nothing. Nobody had any really captured funds. What we did find was some of the projects that were done for last year. I think some of the costs came in a little bit higher than what maybe some things were expected. So some of those projects, if there was going to be a little extra money left over, there really isn't going to be any recaptured funds at all. So at this point, I've talked to most of the departments I usually check with is DBW. They usually have in facilities. Those projects are usually the ones that will have a little bit of recaptured funds. And we're speaking with Gary and Kathleen Caravan. They don't have anything yet at this time that they feel comfortable with turn back. There is some balances left in the accounts, but they're kind of already reserved. So they've been deferred for future costs that they might have on the projects that they're working on.
Thank you. Does anyone, that brings us to discussion questions on the agendas. Do any of the members have anything they'd like to discuss or a question on anything that we've heard? Just raise your hand if you do. Looks like we're good. That brings us to the review and acceptance of the minutes from our last meeting on November 18th. Hopefully everyone had a good chance to review the minutes that I sent out. If anyone has any corrections or edits, please let me know. If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes from November 18th as presented.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented from the meeting on November 18th.
Motion by Jeff. Do we have a second?
I second.
David, second by David. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please raise your hand to indicate aye.
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 All those opposed? Looks unanimous. Thank you. And that brings us to our public comment section. Does anyone wish to make a comment on anything with capital? No? Okay. Okay, that brings us pretty much to the end of the agenda. Our next meeting is next Thursday, December 9th. One thing that's worked well for us for the last year or two is I'll send everyone out a worksheet that sort of helps us in your planning of when we go to make our decisions of what's recommended for funding and what is not. And I think that's been beneficial over the past couple of years. So I will get that together and send that out to everyone. If there are no more questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Motion by Jeff. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Seconded by David. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand, indicate aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on December 9th.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You also.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.